Welcome to the AGF podcast. I'm Brandon Quick, and I'm here with my partner Chris Carlino. We're the owners of the American Grappling Federation. Before I get into today's podcast, I'd like to thank our sponsors. First, BJJ Tees and Just Roll. For the best apparel in jiu-jitsu, check them out at any AGF tournament or on Instagram and Facebook at BJJ Tees. That's BJJTEES. Next, Easy Flex Mats. For your premier home, gym, or sports mats, go to easyflexmats.com. That's easyflexmats.com. Also, Tanita Scales, the official scales of the NCAA Wrestling Championships and the American Grappling Federation. Never miss weight by going to tanita.com. That's TANITA.com. Last, our 2020 charity, the ALS Association. To learn more about donating, events, or volunteering, go to alstexas.org. Again, that's alstexas.org. AGF Podcast Land, we're back. This time it's Chris and I. We don't have a special guest this time, but excited. I've tried to get Chris to do this for a while. Chris actually lives about an hour from me in the DFW area, and so we don't always link up, actually. And then as of the last year, we've been really going in opposite directions in terms of tournaments on different dates. So anyways, excited to be here. We got a lot to catch up on. This is post-lockdown of coronavirus. So we are going to chit-chat a little bit about that, but it won't be all about that. We still have some updates and things that we're working on and future plans and as well. Good stuff to talk about. Anyhow, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How about yourself?
All right. Remember, we don't have to stare at the camera the whole time.
All right.
Well, let's kick off the coronavirus talk first, though. Let's talk about some of that stuff. We have had to cancel a couple tournaments, a few tournaments.
Yeah.
There's the unknown certainty of the future,
right?
Of in terms of like how long is the 6 foot distance, social distancing going to go on for? How long are we gonna lock down ourselves? That kind of stuff. So we're in the business of large crowds of people indoors.
Right. So we've really been affected by that. So so I'm getting a lot of emails asking about that, and basically our approach to this, aside from the ones that we've already canceled, which is what? Luxembourg, we canceled Phoenix, Luxembourg, Shreveport. What else?
That's technically it, I think, right now.
Okay, yeah, those are the ones that are officially canceled. Rally is up next, I believe.
That's April 4th and 5th.
Yeah, that sounds right. And then I'm getting a few about Houston and Jackson because those are the next
April tournaments, basically.
Basically, the general approach that we're taking is kind of like a wait and see approach, where it's day by day. I expect that we're going to have to do something with Rally based upon what we're hearing and as far as how bad it's been getting and what the lockdowns are how they're going to expand and such.
Well, the hard part for me is I get messages and emails, that kind of stuff too. And the hard part for me is everyone wants an answer, but we can't quite give an answer right now on certain dates and subjects like that anyways, just because at a minimum, the whole country is doing this 2-week wait period.
Yeah, the biggest problem is we'd love to reschedule it, but the venues, their dates are already booked for their calendar year, and they really don't know when anything's going to end. So we don't want to cancel it if we don't have to cancel it. But obviously, I see everyone else is they're worried about it and they want to know. But we're working very diligently trying to figure out exactly what we need to do, when we need to cancel, if we need to cancel, and we'll certainly let people know well in advance once we make a decision.
Well, for a little background thing, obviously, being the tournament directors and owners and scheduling these events, part of the problem that I found so far is like some people that say we want to reschedule, right? Say we want to reschedule for December because we don't think it's going to be happening in December, right? For example, the people at these venues aren't at work. Some of these guys are answering more pertinent phone calls, I guess you could say, and dealing with situations, especially the schools. Like, for example, May we have Missoula, Montana, it's a school, and
Yeah, you can't reach anybody there.
yeah, and some places are college, so and so they may be answering things that are more on their top of their priority list, So some of the facilities that are, I guess what would you say? It's, private, profit owned, private. What am I trying to say here? Not schools. They're
Privately owned.
Privately owned. There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, there are privately owned facilities. Those people are a little bit more easy to contact. But then they have, there's things like janitorial service, security, medical, just all kinds of other elements that are in the scheduling of an event. And so a lot of those people, there's a lot of moving parts, and some of those moving parts are frozen or not contacting us back like normal. So I think that's some of the problem. And
Well, I think also it's an issue of they're privately owned. They need to make money as well. And so they're really delaying responding to us, trying to postpone us as well. And so that's creating issues for us moving forward as well.
Well, someone want us to still have the tournaments
Yes.
because they lose money if we don't have it. But for sure, right now we just got to have that wait period of what's up to or what's after this 2-week wait period. So we'll definitely just put on a hold for you guys to know, where everybody is kind of put on a hold. That, but we're getting bombarded with questions about what about this tournament, what about this date, are you postponing, or a refund, are we, all that kind of rescheduling kind of stuff. So we're all just definitely kind of frozen for the 2 weeks, but we do have a lot of cool things coming up. Man, I was super bummed. I was actually competing at Fight to Win Pro on the largest card like in history of Fight to Win Pro. I was cutting weight when Trump put out the travel ban. And then eventually it trickled down to Dallas.
I was stuck in an airport in Albuquerque when we made that decision to cancel Phoenix.
I thought you were going to go there and spend a weekend there. So tell me about exactly what you ended up doing, because I saw a check-in on Facebook that you were back in Dallas.
So on Thursday the truck left to go to Phoenix because it's a 2-day drive for our truck. He had it out. We went to the airport. A group of us, I think there were 6 of us total, went to the airport in Dallas at 6:00 in the morning. We loaded on the plane. We sat on the plane for probably about 2 hours before they told us that they were finally able to let us go, because the rain was so bad that they had to, they delayed the flight and stuff like that. When we actually landed in Albuquerque, our connecting flight to Phoenix had been canceled. So we were sitting in the airport for our next flight wasn't for 7 more hours. So we were sitting in the airport, and then of course I'm being bombarded by emails and phone calls, people asking me what the status of the Phoenix tournament was.
You had a couple schools pull out too.
I had a couple schools say that they wanted to pull out, and so I was looking at a point where we still could have had a tournament, and I contacted the venue to find out what options we had, and they're like, hey, we're still green light, we can still go. And eventually I reached the point where I'm like, this is just going to be a really difficult situation for everyone. And I was sitting there just going back and forth in my head, like, should I cancel? Should I go? Should I cancel? And then Trump made the announcement that it was what was the actual terminology? It was a disaster, national state of emergency.
Yeah, national state of emergency.
He declared a state of emergency. That was kind of like the nail in the coffin. I'm like, I honestly, in good conscience, can't have this event.
Well, having pre-done brackets and schedule and everything, that had 30 plus people of a team pull out each. I called
our truck driver Chris, and I was like, hey man, I'm going to cancel the event. He's like, oh man, it's all good. I'm only an hour and a half away.
From Phoenix.
I'm like,
driving the truck from Dallas.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man. I was like, you upset? And he goes, no, I'll just sit here with Marley. We'll just go turn around. So he turned around and said he was laughing the whole way.
It is super hard to piss off Chris Westfall.
Yeah, he's great. He's an awesome guy. And then I had one of our refs drive in, Kevin Williams, and he was 30 minutes away.
Really? I didn't know Kevin was that close.
Yeah, so I told him, I said, hey, just send us, receipts, and we'll reimburse you for that. And I apologize for him. And then Sherry, my wife, I told her, so like, I got a lot of things, a lot of wheels in motion. If I'm canceling this event, I got to put out an email, I got to notify, the venue, I got to notify the medics, I got to do all these different things. So she runs off to go see if we could change our flight to head back to Dallas. And
this is in Albuquerque.
This is in Albuquerque. And so we're still thinking we're 6 hours. At that point, we're 6 hours away from our next flight. 5 or 6 hours from our next flight. And then finally, she comes running back to me and she says, basically, grab your shit, let's go. I'm like, what? She's like, we're on the next flight to Dallas. It departs in an hour. They're boarding in roughly 30 minutes. And I'm like, I can't go right now. I'm sweating. People are calling me. I'm calling people. I'm sending out emails. I'm trying to type out things. And it's just, I'm stressed all. So, you know me, I'm a stressed person all the time anyway. So I'm more stressed than normal. And so I'm just sitting there just trying to get everything done. And then it just seemed like a wave of relief over my body once I finally canceled it. And people were generally pretty good about it. Of course, you get the few emails from the people that think that we're idiots and stuff. But, I felt relieved that I finally had that weight lifted off my back and then came back. And
I mean, by the time the tournament came around, we couldn't be around 50 plus people anyways, and a 6 foot distance.
Yeah, it was
right?
It was starting to be the logical choice, and and obviously you get back home and you see that other tournaments ran their events, and so you constantly sit there in that moment just second guessing your decisions. And finally, I sit there, I'm like, it's done. There's no point in stressing over this anymore, and just let's move on.
It's not just stress though. Like some people know, sometimes they'll see my dad at the tournament. My dad had me late in life, so he's 72. He's super concerned about getting corona, getting infected, even just the pain in the ass of getting sick if you survive it, and so canceling the tournament, I didn't want to be the guy either that got a bunch of people sick because we, you know what I mean? Like we're the reason, like it's just in good conscience. I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't want to be the reason that we ran a tournament anyways and said, screw it. And we don't care. And we're going to do it anyways. And we ran the tournament and we, maybe somebody had corona at that tournament and it spread to 300 people that day because
absolutely,
so that's the wave of relief that I think that, I was against it in the beginning. I was like, just run the tournament. Naga's running theirs, Grappling Industry's running theirs, that kind of stuff. I'm like, we're okay. Then it got more and more. Then they kept putting more restrictions on us.
And I called you like 30 times.
30 times. And I'm like, dude. But, and so I was for it at first because like all the gyms that are suffering right now, and the tournaments obviously now as well, but that's what we do for a living. And so like canceling that tournament could look bad on us, could obviously loses us money. We got to refund everybody. We have flights that are purchased, people that are driving there, and hotels, all that kind of stuff that gets involved. The security deposit for the facility, whether you were running that one, so I don't know if it was paid in full by now. All those kind of variables.
It was paid in full. I don't even know the status if we're even going to get that money back or what. But
yeah, and so like there was that side of relief. I think also is like. In good conscience as well too, of just not being the reason everyone gets infected,
Oh yeah, it's part of it's just knowing that you probably made the right call. You never want, this. You don't want your business ever to be viewed in a bad light, but you also don't want the sport to have negativity surrounding it, whether it's our event or someone else's event. You don't want to do anything that causes the sport in general to look bad, that gets that negative scrutiny. And so I didn't want to be something that could possibly do that to the sport. And so that, and in addition to a bunch of other factors, all weighed all heavily on me and, prompted that decision ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, I had to cancel Luxembourg. It was our first tournament in Luxembourg.
That was going to be a nice one, too.
It was going to be a large one for sure. And, with Europe, Luxembourg, if you guys don't know, is like a little tiny country. It's like a Rhode Island stuck between Germany, Belgium, and France. And it might even touch the Netherlands. I'm not 100% sure, but it's right there in that little corner, close to Cologne, Germany, and stuff. And Cologne, all of a sudden, I had a seminar outside of Cologne set up that week, which will be now next week, the March 28th weekend and week of. I was going to go to Belgium, and one of my black belts I was going to give a stripe to. He's like 6 months late already because, and I was like, dang, that was a big bummer. I had one more over at Vikings MMA where I go. The guys love me over there. They're awesome people. But it started getting real bad in Europe before us, obviously. And so I was already in tune with what was going on in Europe. And our amigo over there, Antonio, that's our number one guy over there, that's our I don't know what we call those people. Coordinators, yes, I guess would be a good name. Antonio's like, man, this is what's going on in Italy. This is what's going on in Spain. He's a Robin.
Things were shutting down.
Yeah,
borders were closing.
He's a Robin Gracie black belt, and Robin Gracie is based out of Barcelona. I believe it's Barcelona. Maybe it's Madrid, but I think it's Barcelona. And so Spain's not doing great. You know, they were already with a travel ban and all that kind of stuff. And then it started moving into Belgium. It started moving into Germany. It got real bad in Cologne. It started moving all over. Locked down Italy. A lot of people don't realize that our mats, right now we were renting mats. This year we're buying mats and keeping them in Europe. We keep all of our stuff over in Belgium with Antonio. But we were buying mats. So right now we're renting them, but they were in Italy. And so
they were staying in Italy.
They were supposed to come back 2 weeks before Luxembourg, but then they got stuck in Italy when they put the travel ban on there. And I had to try and go rent mats from another dude in the Netherlands. It just started becoming a logistical nightmare already, and we were trying to keep, there was no cases in Luxembourg at the time, but then it just snowball affected, and then they started testing, and then it just everywhere had it pretty much at that point. And it's so different there for the people who haven't been to Europe, or the people who live in Europe and haven't been to the U.S. Europe is train-based. I mean, everything that they do in Europe is closer contact. I mean, you go to a bar, they can have a single bathroom for guy and girls, unisex bathroom. You know,
people run tables even when you're eating.
Yeah,
you could be sitting here, like we could be having our meal with our family, and if there's 2 empty chairs, 2 random strangers will come sit down with you.
Yeah, and it's common to rub shoulders with people at a restaurant or bar or whatnot. Toward America, they're like, "What's up, dude? What's your problem?" You know. But so everything is closer. But the trains with people going, there's way more people in Europe that I know that don't have a car compared to the States, especially here in Texas, where you got to drive 3 hours to get to the closest city. You know what I mean? But so the spreading over there, I knew it was just going to be rapid fire. So that's a big bummer. We're going to try and reschedule there. Luxembourg was super excited. We hadn't been in that country yet. But
do you know how many people asked me what country Luxembourg was in? They thought it was Germany or Belgium or something like that. And for a while, I was like, I have no clue. And then when I went to
Brandon signed that one up.
then when I set up the tournament in the system, it asked for the city, and so you put the country in Luxembourg and ask for the city. I'm like, started looking like, what are the cities in Luxembourg?
Luxembourg City.
Luxembourg is the actual city. So I think the whole country is just one city.
Almost.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah, for sure. I don't even know if it's as big as Rhode Island, but the location's great.
I'm geographically challenged, so it doesn't.
And so, anyways, what else did we do? We canceled Phoenix.
Yeah, you were touching on when I started talking about Phoenix. You were touching on Fight to Win. You were supposed to be in that.
Yeah,
and
I was cutting weight.
That was a huge card. I was really looking forward to it.
I've been on a tear.
Yeah, quite a few of my friends were in it as well, and they were all training hard. And you've been competing a lot.
That's what I'm saying. I was on a tear. I did 3 tournaments in 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. That would have been my 4th.
Yeah.
And I just
you seem to have a renewed focus.
Sobriety.
Maybe so.
That's what I've been vocal about it. But so just been competing a lot, and then it's just like, Fight to Win Pro. I've competed in 2 of them. Was the main event at one in New Orleans. They had one in Dallas. I think it was their first one in Dallas, actually. Seth did a pretty cool speech at the last one that I coached Kyle Short at, and Brian Cutts. Mm-hmm. I coached him at the last one in Dallas that I was here. I don't know if it was the exact last one that was in Dallas. Maybe it was 2 ago, but it was in the last 6 months or whatever. And Seth was like, yeah, man, I came to Dallas, that card that I was on. I think it was actually Fight to Win Pro 6, the first one in Dallas, I believe. And he was like, I had $200 in my bank account. This was going to make or break the company. It was a pretty cool entrepreneur speech that he had, and he thanked a few of us that were in the room during weigh-ins, and this is how it started. And for some of you that know or don't know, the first year that Fight to Win Pro was in existence, we kind of split the facility. It was AGF during the day and Fight to Win Pro at night. And I've always been a friend of Seth's, and ref did his tournaments, done super fights before when he just had the regular Fight to Win Pro tournaments. Man, I think I've been reffing for him since like 2008 or something like that. But anyhow, so yeah, him having to cancel the event, it was a super stacked card. Super, it was the biggest ever.
Yeah, I was looking forward to watching it on Flow. Nobody
was going to meet Mark's entrance, though. I mean, I don't even know how I could. For you guys that don't know Mark Franceschetti, that's it. He's a personal friend of Chris's. He's trained with me. He's a friend of mine, but man, he wears the Game of Thrones ice god or whatever.
Yeah,
it's Frozen Lord, right? Mask, and then he wears
a little inflatable dinosaur.
An inflatable dinosaur you wear for like Halloween. You know where you got like each end of the dinosaur sticking out, and then you walk in its feet. Like, yes, that was his lockout so uniform.
He came out as Trump one time, throwing money out. He said that this next one this upcoming one, he had something that was going to top it all. So we don't.
You don't know what it was?
I don't know what it was.
He wouldn't tell you?
He probably would have if I asked, but I didn't ask. I kind of wanted to be surprised.
Post in the comments, Mark. Tell us what you were going to do. Don't save it for next time, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be funny.
But I was in shape. I was ready to go. I cut weight that night, and I had the next morning. I was going to cut a few more pounds and then weigh in. I was doing great. I was going against a guy named Mike Anderson. He's I hadn't even heard of him, to be honest. He's not on the local scene really. But I had seen, when I looked him up, he had like 4 or 5 matches on Flow Grappling. So he had done some Fight to Win Pros. He had done some, he did a Kazai against Leonardo Machado. And yeah, so like, you know, he looked like a good grappler. He's out of Alan Shabaro's, you know. But
solid gym, so.
Yeah, I just hadn't heard of him on a regular jiu-jitsu scene. But so, anyway, so now I feel like I used to be a lot more in tune with a lot of the people at the different tournaments in the scene. Now I'm a lot more in tune with all the people at AGF, you know, because we travel, and it's kind of cool though. I get to see people develop. Like we were talking about Hunter Colvin and Kevin Williams and people like that, where we watched them go through the ranks. And even I was talking to Tyler Murrah in Oklahoma City a few weeks ago, and he was in brown belt division. And if I was a weight class lower, I would have competed against him in Nogi Pro Masters.
Right.
And I was like, I remember you when you were a white belt competing at AGF. And he's like, I love it, man. I love AGF. You know, like
we have a really loyal group of people that come all the time. They promote it within their gyms, and they've been, you know, staying with us and trying to help us grow, and it's been fantastic. And he's one of them. There's quite a few of them that we could come up with a really long list of people.
Yeah,
those
for
are
sure.
Some fantastic guys that you've mentioned.
For sure. And when we first started out, even the half, like we hit our 9th birthday for AGF, right?
I think October hits our 10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary, but for at least maybe even over half of our existence, I have tried to be very humble about AGF in the terms of, you know, we got these loyal people, blah, blah, you know. And I don't say this in arrogance, but I just want to say that I believe in us more. So I think that we have quote unquote loyal people, but it's also because we do have a great product. I believe in what we do more. I know what we do more. I'm still a coach. I go to other tournaments. You've been to other tournaments. We've been everywhere from Master Worlds to Naga to whatever, to all these other tournaments, you know, that come through. I'm not trying to bash anyone or bring up, you know, any tournament names in particular, but I believe in what we do more and more, and I'm proud of what we do, and I think that what we do is great, and I love our organization. I love our website, our registration process, our check-in process, everything like that. We're making improvements, but I think that the reason that we have some of those loyal people is because of the effort and the quality of our product.
I was on the Black Belt Banter podcast with Todd Ryan and Clinton Switzer.
Thank you, Clinton. Clinton has helped me out a lot with this podcast on the background, so I want to give a shout out there. Todd, I heard you when I was competing. I appreciate you. Love you guys.
And so we were talking on it, and I touched on it. It's like it was when 5 Grappling came to Dallas. I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe somewhere around there. They came around, and I saw all the marketing that they had done and how they promoted their tournament, and I was really kind of envious of how well it was done. And so I went to a tournament and just as an, just observing, just kind of taking notes and just trying to kind of looking up to them like they were a big brother kind of approach. And I was there with Dave Turton. Dave runs, he does all our media work, all our artwork and such, and kind of become our brand manager to some extent.
And AGF photos.
And takes pictures for us as well. And we were there and like, we just sat there and just kind of analyzed things. And, we had this discussion between the two of us and we're like, you know what? We're there. We're at that same level as Five. They may have a few things like marketing dollars that they can spend on these cool advertisements, video ads, and they may have the money to throw and get, high level grapplers to come compete at their tournament and represent their brand with the Five patch and all that other stuff. And, they ran a good show but I sat there and I was like, there's really nothing that they're not doing that we're not doing. Presentation wise, we're doing the same exact thing. We look just as professional as they do. And so it really gave me that confidence boost that, we're doing a great job. We're a good tournament and, that we can compete and thrive in this industry. And from there, it's just been, I personally have been just flooring it in regards to trying to continue to grow the business, trying to grow the software that drives the business and kind of just expand the brand and the product and the service.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what I do. So this coronavirus has kind of helped me in
Pinky in the Brain.
I never
Who's
watched
Pinky?
I never watched that show, but I'm assuming that I'm the brain.
Well, what are we doing today, Pinky? Trying to take over the world. Well, yeah, and in terms of expansion and growing forward and in the future and that kind of stuff, I mean, I can't help not too much at all on the background on the background side of what you do. I mean, once in a while I'll call you up and be like, dude, this is awesome. Like, you guys have no idea.
Hold on. And then I tell Brandon, hey, Brandon, that's been around for like 6 months.
Well,
you just now seen it.
But what the thing is like Chris, right, from code writing, all that kind of stuff in the background in terms of making the rankings, the registration software, the AGF website, the look, the feel, all that kind of stuff. Chris does in the background stuff that you guys don't see. For years, I printed out papers, as in like all the brackets, right? I printed out all the brackets. I laid them out on my tile floors in my kitchen in terms of mats and hours and all that kind of stuff. And then Chris created a algorithm and a background program in order for us to just drag and put in it automatically tallies up the minutes and the hours, like stuff like that on the background that is taking hours and hours off of our, especially the week of a tournament. It takes,
Just remember how much of a pain it was whenever we sit there and we run it and we're like, oh, we need to add 2 more mats. And you're like, well, I gotta go do the schedule again. And then, after spending 4 hours on a schedule, and you realize we had to go from 8 mats to 10 mats, and how frustrating that was. And you're like, screw this, I'm taking a break.
With a 5-year-old in the house.
I'll get you the brackets tomorrow. And of course, I have the personality where I'm like, get it done now. I need this now because you're just gonna make me wait. Let's do it now.
Mentioning the kids, that's the difference. Your kids are teenagers. My kids right now are 8 and 10, but and when those problems are happening,
just give them an iPad and get to work.
4 and 8, like, oh man. And so much work in some of that aspect. Even worse, remember the worst was zebra mats.
Oh,
and not Zebra the company, and we're just talking about tiles when we used to have a truck, and that truck is almost looking like a lowrider from all the weight.
So we actually found out that when we first started doing our tournaments, we didn't rent trucks. I had borrowed a trailer from a buddy of mine. Jeremy was driving it. He was the one that owned it.
Yeah.
But Jeremy would drive the truck with us, and he would drive his personal truck, and he would tow this trailer. The trailer was rated to only carry like 6,000 pounds. We found out later that we were even overloaded when we went to a Penske truck, a 26-foot box truck, that we were still exceeding the maximum weight with that. So the fact that we even made it to half the places we went with that trailer is amazing to me. Remember that you drove to Houston with that trailer. You went to the AGF and you bought those mats. They used mats from the AGF, and you bought them with that trailer. And you actually didn't have the right size ball on your truck.
Yeah.
And you were going through that road construction on, what is it, 35?
Yeah, 35.
Is it 35 or is that?
45.
45. Through the road construction where, you have your guardrail column things, the center, whatever, those little concrete walls, going through the rain, not realizing that your trailer was not even hooked up
correctly. Yeah.
And we didn't find that out until we had the Mouse bring the trailer for us. They hit a bump in Midlothian, which is not that far from here. It's between here and our tournament in Dallas. And they hit a bump, and the trailer came disconnected. And they were dragging it by the safety chains for a few feet. And a cop came up there and told them that, what had happened. And, it was crazy to think. And I go up to Brandon like, dude, you waited all the way from Houston.
I know, no problems.
You didn't even check? It's like, no.
And now we got rollout mats to take us. We roll out the whole tournament, Yeah. But we've definitely gone through some growing pains. But I like the setup that we have now. But in terms of the future, do you want to divulge any information on what you have going on in the background?
No, it's nothing super special. It's just more tools to make life easier for people registering. And then it's also going to help me on the back end because now it's going to result in fewer emails that I'm going to get for changes and stuff. So right now, I just recently pushed where you can actually log in and check your account and register your main account and add your competitors to your account. That's now on the AmericanGrapplingFederation.com website.
Instead of Grapple With Me.
You can
still go to both.
You can still go to both, but eventually you're going to go to the AGF website. Unfortunately, to register for a tournament, you still have to go to Grapple With Me. That's one of the last things that I'm going to move over. But right now, that's going to hopefully be pushed. I'm hoping Monday. Monday's what, the 23rd. I'm hoping to push is the ability for you to see your current registrations that you have for tournaments, and then be able to change your registrations. So some of the biggest requests that I get is weight changes. People's gym names have changed, or they put the wrong one in and they want to change it, or they want to change their weight class or their experience level. Someone got belted up or something to that extent. So that's going to be an option for people to be able to do, is be able to log into their account, view their tournaments that they're currently registered for, and make changes. And so I'm going to test that probably within the next couple of days. And if it's a green light to go, I'll push it on Monday. If not, it'll wait another push date, which is probably the following week. But that's one of the main things that's coming up. And then after that,
that goes up until the final night of registration, though, right? They can't move around after.
Yeah. So once we hit that midnight deadline, the ability for you to hit the button to request changes will basically become disabled, and so you won't be able to make any changes. But the way it'll work is you'll be able to, obviously you'll be able to sit there and make the same kind of adjustments to your registration that you do when you register on Grapple With Me, where if you weigh 170 pounds, it's going to give you the option to register for 160, 175, or 190 if you're an adult male. So it's going to give you the weight class below, the one that you should be in, and the one that you can move up to if you feel like eating a lot. So I'm going to carry over that same functionality over to the AGF website when you change your divisions. But it's also going to allow you to adjust your weight, which is probably one of the biggest things, because not everyone tells us what their correct weight is. So when it comes to bracketing,
and it fluctuates for some.
Yeah, so a lot of people it fluctuates, and so you have some people that might register and they say they weigh 170, but they register for the 160-pound division with the intent of cutting that weight, and that's fine. That's certainly something you can do. But when it comes to bracketing, maybe not necessarily that example, but let's say that you register and you say you're 170 pounds and there's nobody in the 170-pound division for you, and it comes time for us to have to move you. If you haven't adjusted your weight, so maybe you weigh 165 now, or maybe you weigh 180 now. If you don't adjust your weight, when it comes to bracketing, we have to base it on the weight that you provided us. to make sure we can find a match. And this is more of an issue with kids.
Yeah, I was going to say
always happen with kids
because a parent asks a kid, how much do you weigh, or they when they're asking a kid, or they go off of what they remember their last checkup was or something, and
or their last tournament 6 months ago.
Yeah, and it's age 65. I'm like, dude, your kid weighs 90 pounds.
Yeah, we've had that. We've had people that have missed weight by more than 30 pounds. And so in the past with kids, we've been very lenient. We've been very accommodating. We've made changes on the fly. And so I'm hoping that with the ability to change your own divisions and change your own weight, and you can even change your divisions based upon what you see in the competitor list. So say your child has nobody in their division and we're approaching the deadline, you can save us the effort of moving your child, and you can make the decision yourself to move your child into the division that you want to.
Well, hopefully it'll knock down some of the, in my opinion, I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of abuse to our leniency.
And I agree, and I think that lately, the past few tournaments, it's gotten a lot better because I've made announcements in the past. Check your weight, check your weight. Make sure that
YouTubes and Instagrams.
Because we're reaching a point now, especially with the tournaments that we've done for so long, like in Dallas and Oklahoma and Arkansas and these, those states that we've been there for so many years. It gets to the point where you guys know now, how our system works. Your coaches should understand, and so we're going to get to the point where, if it's not your first time there, we're going to start disqualifying you as long as it doesn't mess up the other competitor. If the other competitor's fine with you being overweight, then that's a different story. And now remember, this only applies for kids, not adults. If an adult misses weight, I'm sorry, you're an adult. You should be able to know how to send an email and let us know that you need to change or update your registration in the future to adjust your weight accordingly. And you have the ability to monitor your weight, whereas a parent doesn't know what a kid's eating at school. A parent doesn't know, you can't sit there and tell a kid, no, I know you're starving.
And kids just grow.
Yeah, and they're growing, and, so.
Can you divulge it? Okay, then when I say can you divulge, what I'm getting at is I want to make announcements all the time. I get all hyped up, and Chris is like, no, we're testing that for 6 months before we say anything.
Yeah, because that sounds exactly like
And so...
I don't like not delivering on promises. So I'm very scaled back and reserved. I want to sit there and scream to the world all the things that we're doing.
He does to me, though.
I do that. And with the little asterisk, don't tell anyone. This isn't public. Don't say this. So
can we talk about apps? Can we talk about iPads?
The apps
not to give stuff away.
Well, the app side is not going to benefit them. It's to benefit us, to make our job easier.
Basically, yeah. I mean, if I could chime in real quick, part of it though, obviously, is like, if I'm at the pit and Billy Joe isn't in the pit yet, and I look on my app and I can see that we have a check-in process with the people at different stations having. If I can see that he is checked into the front check-in. If I can see that he's gone to the store and got his shirt, I can see that he's gone to weigh-ins. He just hasn't come to the pit. We know he's in the building, at least, right? We know that person's there. If it is 8:30 and their pit report time is 8 o'clock, for example, and I look at the software and I see that he has not checked in, he's not weighed in, and I know that person's not in the building, hasn't gone through any of the process, it's probably a clear shot to be able to DQ that person.
Right, and that's the general idea is to
we can adjust and try and make them, because that person might be in a 2-man bracket with somebody else, and that screws that other person over.
Especially if that division that they can move to is already running or is about to run.
So it can get us moved along to try and help people who are also left in that division to try and still have matches.
Right, and we need to start being a little bit more, enforcing be ready to go 30 minutes before your staging time, because for the last 2 tournaments that I've run, we've been so far ahead of schedule that we have to sit there and wait for people to show up. And because it's not fair to DQ someone if they're not there by the time the staging time is. But the moment that staging time hits, you're like, okay, yep, we can move on. So we literally could have been done with our last tournament in, where was that? Was it Oklahoma? Yeah, we actually ended our tournament at the last staging time. So we were so far ahead that we're just simply waiting for people. And then, so when it came to DQing people, we looked at okay, this guy hasn't shown up for any of his other matches, it's probably safe to say he's not going to show up for his absolute Division 30. And so that's the only reason why we were able to actually go ahead and move forward.
And we're already at the point where we're not writing in any brackets. We are reprinting the bracket at the pit.
Yeah,
in
so
case the division.
the goal is to eventually go paperless. I'll still bring paper, just in case there's a failure. We still do backups because that's my mindset, is always to have a backup plan just in case technology fails. But the next step that I was going to say is, once I do the ability to change your registrations, the next step is I'm actually going to take a step back from the website portion of it, and I'm going to start moving towards the app side, so that we can start doing weigh-ins, and recording weight on the app. And then that'll have to have some serious testing on that to make sure that works as well as it should. And then that way the pit can know that people have actually weighed in. And so if they haven't made weigh-ins by their time that they're called, then we know that they're not going to be there. And it's the next step in the evolution of the app and streamlining the tournament. And all this has a direct benefit to the competitors and the spectators. And then ultimately get to the point where everything's all connected and we don't need the paper. We can start producing information on apps that are presented to the customers so that they can start tracking things. I mean, we could always use a third-party software, and I've been asked this question, why don't we use software like SmoothComp? And I have I have no problems with SmoothComp.
I don't like it. It pushes the competitors' times back.
Well,
it's
I
accurate.
don't mind it because it's a complete solution. The problem with it is that's not how we run our events. So if we decide we want to use SmoothComp, we need to evolve our tournament or actually just change our entire format of how we run our events to use their software. And that may not be a bad thing, but it's not how we've gotten to where we are. It's a complete, process change for us. And so rather than using a out-of-the-box solution that so many other tournaments are using, I wanted to design software that works for our tournament, the way that we run our tournaments. So now we run our tournaments a very specific way that differentiates us from all the other tournaments that have to run their tournaments this way because their software dictates it. So we're a completely custom solution that allows us to do whatever we want, versus that solution where we are limited to what features they want to give us. And the other problem is if we say, hey, can you develop this feature for us because it'd be great for us? Well, then that feature now becomes available for everyone else. Mm-hmm. And we have nothing that differentiates us from the other tournaments. So, yeah. We
got a few things that are pretty awesome, though.
We do.
The new coaches replay, coaches challenge. Some people don't even, I'll be honest, a lot of people don't even know what it is.
I think we need to educate a little bit better on that.
So the coaches challenge, if you guys noticed at the recent tournaments in 2020, you have a red beanbag and a blue beanbag on the coach's chair. And refs are human beings and make mistakes, even some of our longtime guys. And so long story short, if I'm a coach, if I'm sitting in the coach's chair, Chris is sitting in the coach's chair, and I see a bad call or something I disagree with, I can throw out the beanbag to stop the clock and stop the play. Has to be done right there, because the old argument of having a call try and be changed later is no good, because that match would have been played differently if that call were to be changed at that time. So it stops the clock, it stops what's going on, and then the person who called the coaches challenge has to produce the video. So there's a million people videoing usually, and usually someone from their team or whatnot. We've never had a problem with no video so far. And so they produce the video. Someone's videoing the matches usually, like I said, and we give that video to an available head ref, myself, Chris, another ref. Doesn't have to be the head ref. It just, sometimes they're rotating. Just another ref besides the one that's on the mat. So the one that's on the mat is taken out of play. And then, it could be a points call, it could be a out of bounds call, whatever the case may be. It's a rules infraction.
It could be whatever they want it to be honest with you.
And so if that play is corrected, then so the teams get two team challenges or coaches challenges per tournament. So
you mentioned there was only for finals matches.
It was only for finals matches, but I will say that the tournaments that I ran, I allowed them for every match. We didn't really. The coaches weren't educated enough to only do it during finals matches. So we did have some coaches throwing it during regulation, and then they stopped the match anyways. So we just dealt with it and ran with it, you know. So it worked out great, but
well, I mean, that was ultimately the plan, was to allow it for any match, but we didn't want to get overwhelmed with
grandmas and regular coaches and just blue belt coaches that are just filling in at the time.
It's kind of one of those things where I'm like, okay, well, let's test it, and let's make sure that this idea even works, and then Brandon just does his own thing.
It's not Brandon does his own thing. Hold on a second. It's also because, like I said, they weren't educated enough on it. The whole population has to be educated. I don't think that we educated people enough on it.
Doesn't that come from the top to educate the...
Yes, exactly. and you're at the top. So, and
Got
so,
there, right?
you know, you have people that throw a beanbag out and they don't know it's only for finals match because their coach has gone off into the crowd and said, hey, they got this coaches challenge thing going on, blah, blah, blah.
And that's fine. As long
they
as
don't relay the information that it's only supposed to be finals matches, okay, even though it's been stated by us. And
well, the plan is for the ring coordinators to keep the beanbags and hand them to the ref for only finals matches. And then
Correct. Yeah, and so it was new, and you know, I was
that
on
was
a couple.
probably a new tournament too, where you're still training ring coordinators, you're still training.
And it's new for the refs. I think the refs, you know, it was the first time, a couple times they did it. You know what I mean? It was only the first couple times. Anyway, so you had people throw out the code, and you get 2 per day. If you're wrong, you get a challenge taken away from you. If you're correct, then you still get to keep that challenge. Okay, and so it worked out good. It's first instant replay that we're having in terms of reversing calls.
How's that worked out for you
at a jiu-jitsu tournament?
Events?
Great. I haven't had any problems.
Have you had to reverse calls? Have you?
Yes, and when I was in Oklahoma City at your event, I had to reverse a couple.
Yeah, so at the events that I've run, it's worked out really well. There's only been one tournament that we did not actually offer it, and that was because I think I forgot to unload the beanbags from the truck.
That starts at the top, doesn't it?
It does.
Anyways,
and so
it's a little inside thing between me and Chris.
It's we like to throw blame at each other, and then it comes back.
Not my fault. It's his fault.
But then the next tournament, it gets thrown right back at you.
Yeah, that's not cool.
You didn't do it this time.
It's ping pong blame.
Yeah,
but
so
I think it worked out great.
Yeah, it seems like I know that the very first time we did it, we only had 2 challenges, and it was put by the same coach. He won the first one, but lost the second one, and it was all good.
Yeah.
And then as we go along, we're like, well, what happens if this happens? And I'm like, okay, well, I think, you know, like say they decide to throw the beanbag out and they've already had their challenges and they don't have any more challenges left.
Yeah.
What happens? And I'm like, that's an interesting point. Maybe, you know, maybe it's 2 points if they stop the match. Then, or I don't know, maybe it's nothing. I don't know. Then the other question was, what if they
That's part of testing it, though.
Yeah, what if they throw down the beanbag and they grab the beanbag and retract the challenge before the match is stopped? And I'm like, well, then it never happened. But if the match is stopped to address the beanbag, then your challenge is in effect.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have anything to challenge, then all right, well, sorry, you just lost your challenge.
My question I got from the refs was, what if a beanbag is thrown out while a guy's in a submission?
That's a good question.
That was the main thing that my refs during the refs meetings had, was like, do we stop a guy in a full-blown armbar and stop the match? Because then you can't restart him in the armbar. And then what if the coach is wrong? He loses a challenge, but that guy could have got tapped. You know, so like there's those instances as well too.
Certainly something we need to talk about, because I hadn't really thought about that.
This is what I'm just throwing out there as an idea, and what I thought about was, let the submission play out. Because if the coach was wrong, then the guy tapped.
Then you have your
victor, and the guy tapped. If he's right, then it would start from when he threw it, and it would
start from where the challenge was issued. So if the position or the challenged event caused that person to be in a submission, then it would be reset to prior to that submission.
Yeah, well, even if it's not the cause. Maybe the challenge was a pass, and then all of a sudden that guy passed to an armbar. You know, like he didn't get his points or something, and then the coach is mad about it, so he throws it in, and then the guy spins for an armbar. So it's from when the challenge was thrown in.
Yeah, we'll have to.
So it
we'll
could
have to
reverse. It could reverse that submission. You
Yeah.
know. But if he tapped the guy real quick and then the coach is wrong, then the tap stays.
Yeah.
See what
We'll
I'm
have to
saying?
talk and kind of work it through.
But that was the only question I got from the refs.
Now, there was one incident that came up, and this is one thing. Actually, this has happened twice to my knowledge. Once in Phoenix, and then once at this last tournament. And it's been an instance of a challenge of a scorekeeper error. And so, as the refs are human, so are our ring coordinators. They constantly have people going up to them, asking them, "Am I up next?" And other questions that can distract the ring coordinator, or they could actually accidentally click points with the wrong people. And so, at the conclusion of a match, I had a parent come up to me and they claimed that points were not awarded, or in this particular case, points were awarded to the wrong person. And so in this case, I look at the video and I'm like, you're absolutely correct. So in that situation, it's a challenge, but it doesn't fall within the same constraints of a normal challenge. And one of the things that I've always, at least for the tournaments that I ran, I've always said, if it's a poor decision by a ref, this was prior to the challenges, it's human error. Sorry. We'll educate our refs. We'll try our best to make sure that doesn't happen, make sure they understand what they did wrong. And I'm sorry. And if the situation warrants it, I do whatever I can to make it right with the competitor, whether that's giving them a free tournament or whatever. Some people are just fine with just me acknowledging that there was a mistake and addressing it to make sure that the ref tries not to let that happen again. But if it's always been an issue with a scorekeeper making the wrong call, I look at the time that the score was affected. And so if it's one of those situations, and we've talked about in the past, where I feel that as a coach, I'm going to coach my student differently if he's up or below.
Yeah.
And so in the one in Phoenix, the points were changed at the last second. It was a last second scoring error. The hand was raised for the person that had the extra points added to him. Reviewed the video, went back, and I overturned the call. And I said, look, you had 12 seconds left. You weren't going to do really anything in this position to change the outcome of this tournament. And I talked to him, and he understood, and he agreed with it. And so I went back and I reversed the call, and I awarded the gold medal to the other guy. In the last tournament in Oklahoma, I did something different, because the points being messed up was a result of the ref not holding his fingers in a certain way. Like, I've always joked to some of our refs when they sit there and they do points like this. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it just looks like one finger right here. You can't see that it's two unless I turn it this way. And so the scorekeeper has no idea what it is. And so he
should for another reason. Why?
Well, because the ref's yelling 2 points for this.
Yelling is the key word, refs.
So anyways, it got messed up early in the match. It was like,
gosh,
it was like maybe a minute and a half into a 5-minute match. And so finally I went back and I'm like, look guys, your kid didn't win, in this scenario. His did. But it's not fair. And I go through my whole spiel of, points will dictate how you coach and stuff like that. I said the best option here is to redo the match. They both agreed. Well, one didn't. He was all upset, but his coach told him it's the fair thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Went back, and sure enough, it was a lopsided victory in the second match. But it turned out the kid that should have won actually won. And so it worked itself out. And, in those particular situations, if it's a scoring issue and it's not a judgment call issue, I will override it, and if need be, reverse the call, or I'll make them do the match over again.
Well, speaking of rules, we have a rule update, right? Right now, you can't, you don't get guard pass points with your arm between someone's legs, like in side control, for example. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's because like spider guard or like a leg lasso or anything like that, it's not guard pass points.
It could be because
Used
based on a
against
grip. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't submit them back.
Right.
Like all point positions except for like a sweep, like the guard pass, the those kinds of things with more control as well. If the bottom person has a version of spider guard or has hands on your arms and that kind of stuff, can use it to escape and get out of there and that kind of stuff. And anyways, and so now you could be Navy riding, which means I can have my arm going through your legs from my side of the body or from the other side. And we'll show this in videos and stuff like that. But now we can, I was talking to Chris Westfall about this too. We can have a guard pass with our hands in between the legs on top. And we'll go over that in videos and stuff like that. Okay. So long as there's no grips being made, like a spider guard grip being made or a leg involved. Okay. And now speaking of rule updates and continuous training for the refs. So we got a Facebook thing that we're going to talk about in just a second. But just from, again, Chris and I, we all we deal with is logistics and how to run these tournaments prior to and the day of. Even aftermath. But let's use the AGF, for example. A lot of people hate on them, but they're my business idol gods. Okay.
I've used the term that they're the gold standard.
Gold standard, yeah. And so in terms of business organization and those kinds of things, I believe they're the gold standard. I think that where people have the biggest disagreement with them is the rules. And so like that's your own thing. If you don't like a rule, then don't compete in their tournament. But in terms of business,
I think
and
the rules
organization
set dictates. I think the rules can dictate whether or not you attend a tournament or not.
Yeah, for sure.
I think as far as you take away the rules, they're a really good organization, run really well. And so you should certainly support them if you agree with their rules.
Yeah. I like them in terms of the business aspect, as I'm talking about for sure, and their worldwide expansion. But they run ref courses. Mm-hmm. I've tried to do a ref course before, but my hardest part about the logistics of that is, let's say I want to educate the refs in Virginia Beach. Mm-hmm. Let's use Virginia Beach, for example. Mm-hmm. Well, on Friday night, we're setting up. And we're setting up from 6 to 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. Ref courses can take a few hours. Mm-hmm. So also, I can't have setup being done, me not there, or a head ref not be there, or all of my refs that would typically be helping set up be at the ref course. And so it's hard to run a ref course the same weekend. We can't do it after.
Well, I also think that it's like showing up at the test 15 minutes early and expecting to learn everything you need to pass the test. I think ref courses are a continuing education thing. I think that it's something that you should constantly work with your refs and your ref team. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of other tournaments is we keep the same refs and we have them ref different tournaments because everything, just like training in jiu-jitsu, everything's going to get better through continual use. So the more I sit there and I ref matches and I stay and I learn from my mistakes and I keep improving and I'm sticking with one rule set because I'm only doing AGF tournaments, I'm going to eventually become a better AGF ref.
Yeah.
I may suck as a ref for another organization because I won't know their rule set.
Correct. And there's some drama involved. Like if I fly into Virginia Beach and I hired all local refs, mm-hmm. okay, I don't know if this ref left that gym a month ago. I don't know if he stole his students. I don't know if he's made bad calls. I don't know if he's world's worst ref. Like there's all those kinds of things that are involved as well too. So it does, and that's the thing that separates us as well. Having the same refs, but also we fly some of ours mm-hmm. around. We paid for their gas. Like we they like working for us. We've gone out together. We've gone, out in New Orleans together to New York.
We flew a bunch of our staff our first time to Europe.
To Europe as well, too, yeah.
We brought 19 people with us to Europe.
Yeah, and so I think that's a big part. It costs us money, but it also makes it quality for the tournament. And so it's hard, like I was saying, to run a refs course. And then, if I were to run a refs course, let's say Virginia Beach, let's say even Dallas, I would have to pick a weekend where both of us are not running a tournament because we would want our refs to come, right? Not just so that you and I can attend. Say we had Chris Westfall do it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Chris Westfall would have to do it on a weekend where we don't have tournaments because we would be occupying the tournaments, you and I, right? Or the referees, I'm saying. So we'd have to do it on a free weekend. This would also force our refs to have to travel to that location, mm-hmm. right? And then the U.S. being so big, and then we'd have to do several. And then some people wouldn't be able to, and then if we put any kind of requirement on it to where you can't ref course unless you've been to this course. So I was like, oh man, so that's difficult.
So if the Gracies can do online training,
we can do online.
We can do online.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, Chris and I did online training. I used to have a website that was Chris uploaded the videos and ran the website, and I used to have online training. Yeah. Actually, the tournaments used to be called Killer Apps, and we had online training in the form of apps.
Done with all that.
Anyways, and so we have a new ref group. Can you scroll down so I can see that? What's the exact name?
It's AGF Rules Training Group. We can put it in the description for the YouTube. We'll also blast it on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'll put it on the podcast description.
As of right now, we've invited all our
AGF Rules Training Group. AGF Rules Training Group. Coaches, competitors. This is not just for refs. This will be ongoing training. We're going to consolidate it to there instead of just our referee group that we have. Because we have ref groups for Europe and US, and then staffs, different groups. So this will be for ongoing training. I'm going to put videos in there. I'm going to put the old videos, because if you don't know, right now on AGF YouTube, I have AGF Rules. It's a 9-video playlist. I explain all the rules. There are some slight variations that we've changed over the years. So we're going to continue to update there. I'm going to do some Facebook live training so that people can ask questions. People can be involved and interactive in this as well too. I will want my current referees to participate in it. So I'll do it in an off hour so that you're not like at your school training. Maybe it's a Saturday night, maybe it's a Sunday evening, something like that.
Or right now, because everyone's at home.
Well, yeah, we're talking about that obviously during the downtime of coronavirus. So it's something that we're going to have for continuous online training for the refs, and to just answer questions. I think the Facebook Live is a great thing because I can literally get down on the mat or answer people. If you've refereed for me, you know that I'm real big on phrases that are easy to remember and are precise answers to a situation. Those are the things I like to really make it easy for the refs to remember and understand, especially while you're refereeing in the middle of the heat of the moment. So again, that's AGF Rules Training Group. We'll be doing that. We'll let you know. I mean, right now I'm down at Chris's house, an hour away from me. I'm not doing it right this second. I have to also organize a ref to come with me and get down on the mats and that kind of stuff. We'll probably just get in uniform and go from there.
I think a lot of it could just be video analysis of, not calling out any specific refs, but more like looking at matches and saying, okay, in this particular scenario, this is how you should address something. And I don't think it needs to be you sitting there just replaying every possible scenario. I think that'd be something that our viewers or, people that are actually in the group can actually make suggestions of, hey, in this particular situation, how is this ruled? And that could be some back and forth, trying to make sure that we hammer down exactly what it is being asked and how we should address it.
I put out a video the other day on a side triangle escape.
Oh, God, that was so funny.
And it went crazy. And I was Yoko Senkaku. So, I saw that the Danaher guys are obviously going crazy with the Japanese names.
I don't know a single
one. But I have had to practice. It's such a bummer we got this coronavirus going on. I got a guy named Temi from Japan. I don't know if it's the people that follow me personally on Instagram and Facebook. So he's from Osaka, Japan, and he's here for 3 weeks to train. Well, he's not training this week, but
is he gonna be able to go back?
I don't know. It's locked down. I think he's got some money though. I think he'll be all right. But he's here for 3 weeks to train, and so I was teaching classes, and I'm using all my Ashigurami Senkaku, Budo Kaku, Yaki Yamasoko. I was trying all my Japanese words, and those don't mean anything except for the first two. But anyways, that Yoko Senkaku is like a side triangle, and I was asking people, is this worth points? Because Levi and I, a lot of people know Levi from competing and from refereeing, and he's my personal black belt. Levi and I will talk all the time about positions, and I literally showed that escape in teaching and in training the other day, and was like, is that worth points? I also had a crazy one the other day with Levi was doing it to me, actually. Maybe it was Levi. I forget who was doing it. But anyways, a guy jumped guard on me. Or not jump guard, sorry. Flying arm drag me. So
flying arm drag?
Yeah, he jumped on my back from an arm drag, right? So he jumped up on my back, and it was coming around my back, and I grabbed his knee and his hip and pulled him around to the front to guard, and then set him down. It was like, is that takedown points then? Seriously, because like the position never finalized, he never put his hooks in, nowhere was stabilized for 3 seconds. And so he dragged me, jumped up on my side, started going around my back. I pulled his hip and his knee to pull him to guard in front of me and then set him down. And I walk over to Levi, I'm like, yo, is this a takedown or what? Like,
I think that's the takedown.
You know what I'm saying? But like, so in every tournament, we get all of the refs. We have some crazy scenario that happens. I mean, I've been dumbfounded by orange belts. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, so like, the constant evolution of discussing. And then it's not just the constant evolution of referees. It's the game. You know, like we used to stop a match because someone's foot was in their gi, and now you got worm guard, and you got people putting their feet inside of the gi, and you got and all these lapel guards and stuff. As a matter of fact, just the changing of like, okay, so you and I are in a match and we break, and then as a ref, I'm going to tell you guys, put your uniforms back together, tie your gi, tie your belt. But nowadays it's like, but wait a minute, I had his lapel out and I want it back out. And so you don't start people back with their uniforms tied, But I believe that we still have to have the belt tied. The belt should not be on the floor. It shouldn't be around the referee's neck. The ref shouldn't go put it on the table. Like we should continue the match with the belt.
Is that one of the situations where you evaluate how the match was stopped and how the belt, then everything got disentangled?
Well, I would, like, for example, I'm a Kenny Cornelius fan. I watch his online, his apps. I brought him to my school to train with. I'm private lesson with him. The guy's awesome. I'm a fan of his work. So there's also a worm guard with the belt. There's the belt worm, if you didn't know. There's also reverse Della worm, which is...
Of course there is.
Which is the
inverted reverse Della worm, I'm sure.
Inverted reverse Della worm.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is the best. Okay, so, but the belt worm, for example... now I could have someone's lapel completely off, but I think they still need to have the belt on because the belt can be grabbed. It's a tool.
Below the knot. You can grab below the knot.
Well, yeah. Well, I can grab the physical belt,
but
I can't choke someone with the belt. Is what you're getting at, below the
right.
knot. Yeah, but yes, I can worm guard with below the knot. Yes, yeah. Okay, but so like if your jacket's completely out, I can use your lapels like crazy, but I can also grab the belt. The other reason I disagree with not having the belt on is because if your belt falls off and mine's on, I'm at a disadvantage because you can grab my belt. So it needs to be equal playing field regardless. So even if someone had worm guard and they went out of bounds and the belt fell off, I would make them tie their belt and the other guy would still be able to have the lapel back and put worm guard back in.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's not always the development of just the referees and what's going on in continuous training with our rules. It's the development of jiu-jitsu, the popularity of honey hole, 411, what I call the leg lace, right? What's legal, what leg can I attack, what can I not attack, all that kind of stuff as well too. So you have, and that grows like a wildfire in the game. Like everybody is now a leg locker, right? And so like we have to have them trained on those rules. We have to go over those things. So the development of jiu-jitsu is also another reason why we have to have continued training.
Absolutely.
Not just the refs. And so I pride myself in that. And a lot of us...
Is this the whole pinky in the brain in reverse now?
Yes.
Okay.
I have told Chris that the next level is Chris needs to ref. So we're waiting for that next tournament. He's got this whole coronavirus downtime to study rules and go on to our Facebook group.
See, what's interesting though is I've literally tried reffing at my school that I train at, and I sit there and I'm watching it, and my mind just starts wandering, and I start looking at different things, and next thing you know, I'm looking at the match and I'm like, how the hell did they even in this position? Who initiated this? And I completely go absent-minded as far as what's going on in this match. And then I think, and I flash forward to me at a tournament where I'm just going to be distracted by so many things that it's going to result in me making a bad call. And I'm like, I can't keep up with this. There's no way. I mean, it's hard enough, doing the things that I do. I mean, I understand that I need to have a good understanding of the rules, but for me to actually go out there, I think it's just a recipe for disaster.
We've all got to evolve, Chris.
Maybe
We've all
so.
got to evolve.
And I'll let you start coding.
Yes,
There we
sounds
go.
good.
And this was the end of AGF.
With Chris repping and me doing the website.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Yeah. I think this is one of those things where,
Just
the
admit-
term know your lane.
Yeah, there you go. Well, at least knowing
It's
the
nice
rules.
knowing y'all.
Yeah.
It's like,
And so that brings us like competing at AGF ourselves. I mean, and then coaching ourselves. I coach a lot, and so I get yelled at a lot. Like, Brandon, you can't correct the refs while you're coaching. And Chris is like, you just got to take the L, dude. Even if you're right, you just got to take the L, because you're like, it looks bad because you're altering the match for someone else when you're the owner of the company.
I literally don't want you coaching.
Yes.
Just because as an authority figure within the thing, I mean, a lot of our refs realize that, in this particular instance, you're just a coach. You're not the owner of the company that's signing the
I can watch
paycheck.
it. Some guys get super nervous though.
Oh, I'd be super nervous. I mean, I've gone there and I've watched matches, and I could see there's a little bit of a hesitancy, a little bit of nervousness with a ref. Most of our refs, not the case, but especially some of our newer ones. And, I don't want to influence any decisions. And so, there's been times up there where they'll look at me like, and I'm like,
It's what you're paid to do, dude.
this is your job. It's not my job to sit there. I can sit there and think that you're wrong, and I can come back and talk to you and explain to you why you're wrong after the match. But if I don't like you coaching. But as far as competing, knock yourself out.
Well, yeah, I like that. And I used to not want to compete in AGF as much, just because of that whole bias thing. But the truth is
No, that wasn't really my issue with competing at AGF. My issue was always the amount of work that I put in prior to the tournament going on. It gets really intense all at one time, where there's a lot to do. Then I have a small window where I don't have anything to do, and then it's full on busy. And then so for most tournaments, we spend most of our day Friday traveling to an event. Then from there, we go and we do setup. And then I'm notorious for not being able to sleep at a hotel room, so I'm not sleeping. And then we wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready for a tournament. And so by the time I'm even at the tournament, I'm just physically worn out. And so when I actually have time to do a match, it's usually later in, because I don't like doing no gi. And so I do gi matches when opportunity presents itself. And that's not usually till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening. If I'm going to compete that day, then I'm not going to eat, because I don't want to have that on my stomach and all those stuff. So then I'm just a real pain in the ass and just bitchy at that point. I'm tired, my back's hurting, everything's just falling apart, and and I'm just ready for this. And then I'm sit there and I'm in my mind, I've just played in my mind like, why the hell did I even sign up for this? I don't even want to do this anymore. It's like in the beginning it was fun and I wanted to do it, but now I'm at the point where I just don't want to be here anymore. It's like I want this tournament to be over with. I want to go home, and I just want to go out and chill and hang out with all the friends that I've got there and just enjoy the tournament. And this just adds a stress to the situation that I don't necessarily want, because I want competing to be fun for me. And this takes kind of the fun away. And then also there was the stress of, in my mind, I'm like, as the owner of the company, I'm going to have more people wanting to see how I do.
Oh yeah,
watch my matches.
I definitely feel that
And so when I finally ultimately decided to start competing, and I think it was at Purple Belt at AGF, and I started watching, and I'm pretty religious about watching videos of myself. I'm very critical of what I do and how. I don't care if I win or lose as much as I want to make sure that I didn't look like a complete idiot out there.
All of us are like that.
I want to show that, when I was a purple belt, that I look like a purple belt. I don't want to have people sitting there scrutinizing, he doesn't look like a purple belt, and he owns AGF. So I put that pressure on myself as well. And then I watch the videos, and I see people's reactions, and there might be 6 people to start with, and by the time the match is middle of the way, 3 of them have left, and the other 2 are talking to each other, and one person's filming, and that's my wife. And so it's like nobody gives a shit. Is what it boils down to. Nobody cares. And so that went away. And then once I'm done competing, I sit there and I do an evaluation of how I feel. And I realized, I was pretty tired, pretty worn out, really didn't want to do it. But once I got out on those mats and I actually started, shaking hands and bumping fists, all that went out the window. My adrenaline has kicked in enough to the point where I'm not having an adrenaline dump, so I can control that pretty well now. But I've gotten to the point where I don't hurt anymore. I'm definitely not nervous anymore. I'm not anxious, not stressed, no nothing. I'm just on the mats with someone that I'm rolling with. And in most cases, I'm rolling with people that I know that I'm friends with already, because they're just looking for somebody to roll with as well.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to the point where I've actually enjoyed competing. But my issue now is I've competed quite a bit as a brown belt. And then I competed as a black belt just last year. But anyways, I was
with Mike Westcott from Smash Bowl, right?
Yeah, I was with Mike.
Who's the guy who sells acai?
Yeah, Mike's a really nice guy. Hang on, I got a cough. We're good. No corona here. So yeah, I rolled with Chris Huebner out of Kansas City, and with Mike Westcott out of Nashville, Tennessee. I think he's Nashville. Mm-hmm. And that was my black belt debut, and so I had a lot of fun with that. But that's when I first was having issues with my back. I'm not saying it affected my match at all. I was really a lot in pain prior to the match, and then I was in a lot of pain after the match, but it didn't affect me at all during the match.
Affects your training though.
Yeah, it affects your training, and then it definitely affects your ability to train after because you're recovering. And so we kind of segued into my injuries here, but
I like competing at AGF though. I have a different story.
Fun, but I'm really selective with who I competed with. As a brown belt, I went down to the adult 175-pound division, and I had a great first match, and then I just got completely outclassed and outworked by a young 20-year-old in my weight class, and I was like, yeah, there's some serious. For one, I'm not a great jiu-jitsu guy to begin with, but then there's an absolute difference in skill level, or at least the age factor made a significant difference in me being able to keep up with his speed and his abilities.
I'm 38 and I don't want to do adult no more.
Yeah, so I'm pretty specific. I don't mind going up in weight. I've gone up and I've gone against guys that were 220 before, and I've done fine. I did that in Europe, in Belgium actually, and then I've gone up in weight. I don't mind going against smaller guys, but it's more so I'm willing to compete against anybody at any weight as long as they're my age. And I'll go down to masters if they're my weight, but I usually don't want to go down much lower. I think it just really doesn't do much for me. Mm-hmm. Now, if they're by themselves and they need an opponent, I'll hop in. I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, I don't know.
For me, it's a little bit like I used to have some of those same things. Like people were watching, like we're waking up early, we're running the tournament, we're doing all that, and if I can, I try to make it a little bit easier on myself. I'll talk to my opponents and ask if we can compete earlier in the day. So sometimes I'll do that. Especially if it's one match.
Right.
Maybe even if it's because we don't have the consolation matches for adults. So even if it's 3 guys in our division or 4, it can be run earlier, and especially if we're ahead of schedule and that kind of stuff. So I'll try and do that for myself. But just being on a lovely new life kick, I'm eating healthier. I was training a lot more. I'm feeling great in training. And just I like I said earlier, I did 3 tournaments in the last 4 weeks. And I definitely feel like a lot of people are watching me when I compete. I put myself out there a lot with YouTubes and videos. And
that's one thing that's really been different between the two of us is I don't want that attention at all.
It's not that I desire it. I'm just saying I know that it's there.
Well,
and
I
it's
don't
always,
want it to be. I just want to be the guy in the background that you guys can be friends with.
It's the thing about putting yourself out there, definitely, is that you got to deal with those anxieties. And figure out we've got apps out. I've had 2 sets of DVDs, 3 sets actually with the leg locks of DVDs. I've been in Jiu-Jitsu Magazine twice. I'm out there, and I know, you know.
Yeah, I've been involved in a lot of those different things.
Yes,
and nobody knew it. And I'm fine with that.
And so, you know, people want to know. Like, I get a lot of people, you know, can you grapple like you teach? Can you do the techniques in which you teach? Can you, you know? And then I've got students that fought in the UFC. I've got black belts. I've got, you know, 11 that I've given out. Like, you know, and a lot of them are known as competitors as well too. And what, you know, people just always want to know. And then just the fact that for me personally, I was also motivated by Seth Daniels. You know, Seth competes in his own tournaments, Mr. Team No Sleep, right? And he's out there doing it. And the difference is he does have one match, you know, so, you know, the tournaments are sometimes can be multiple matches, but either way, it's late in the evening. He's putting on the whole show and he's competing in the middle of it. It really motivated me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Seth, especially in that regard.
I feel great doing it. I actually feel more pressure in no-gi than I do gi. And I know some people see me as a no-gi only guy, not only, but a no-gi dominant guy. But I train just as much gi as I do no-gi. Some weeks I train more gi than no-gi. I do like AGF's rules. The attacks are allowed more in no-gi pro. But, you know, sometimes there's a brown belt in the division. And I feel more pressure with that than I do with black belts that got multiple stripes on their belt. You know, I feel like they stand to gain way more by beating me than I stand to gain by beating them. So I feel more pressure in that way. And then eventually I just had to let that go. You know, I had to let that go. I've had losses. I compete like 2 to 5 times a year. I'm not a huge competitor. I never have been, but I have competed every single year since I've been out of the military. You know what I mean? So like, I haven't skipped a year, and I tend to get injuries. That's another thing. Like, especially post 30, like last year I had bursitis for almost 4 months in my left knee, drained 62 cc's out of my knee. You know, like, so that is just insane. And so you know, and then meniscus or shoulder tear or something like that happens. And so I decided at a certain point, I'm just going to get after it until I have another injury because now's the time, basically, because that's the main thing is like I'm anticipating maybe having a slight injury. So I started registering for all these tournaments. I registered all through April and May at all the tournaments. And I'm like, I'm just going to compete at every tournament that I go to. Like, why not? I'm in a healthier lifestyle, blah, blah, that kind of stuff. Because I feel like, you know, some things can take me out of it. And I've been having fun, and I get so much good feedback from people. It's unreal. Like, I got more feedback from me and Kevin competing last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, whatever, than the other matches. You know what I mean? And I lost the match.
Did you see that spinning back thing?
Spinning back thing. Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, and it's funny. And it's another reason I like to compete. Like, I have gotten the better of Kevin in training. I have gotten the better of Roger Narvaez in training. I got the better last time of Anthony Mitchell in training in his gym, you know, but that's gym training. And all 3 of those guys beat me in tournaments, you know? So like, as another thing I really had to set aside for myself and say, okay, beating someone in training does not mean you're gonna beat them in a tournament.
Exactly, because you don't know if they're just trying something new, if they're being respectful and trying not to go aggressive with you. I mean, because that's how it is. Like, whenever I do my training trips, and I go and I roll with the black belt there, I'm damn sure not going 100% with them, because I am under the expectations that they're not going 100% with me. And so I'm not trying to tap them as much as I'm expecting them just trying to be respectful with me as well and not trying to wreck me and show me their A game. And so I can certainly understand where you can get that impression that, you know what, I beat this guy in training. Well, what if he was trying his open guard that day and he's not so good at it, but he's got an A game that, you know, that's his half guard game. And so when you go to compete with him, he doesn't even try his open guard game. He goes straight to his half guard game.
Well, that's where I messed up with Kevin, to be honest. Like, I usually
let him move.
Yeah, I let him move. And I usually did well with him when I body lock past him and clinch him. And I didn't do that at all. I stood up to pass the leg lasso and drag it, and then I started letting him move. But anyways, you know, so like, and I've trained with, but on the other hand, I've trained with Cortez Coleman, who I competed with the same day. And I had a victory over Cortez. But, you know, and that's it. Like I was saying earlier about putting myself out there, Cortez is like, he's watched me for 10 years on YouTube. You know, so I put myself out there. I had to get over those anxieties of being out there with the viral, the videos and all that kind of stuff, and then competing. But I got a victory over him, and I trained with him. So it's like it goes on both sides of the coins. You know what I mean?
And maybe next time you go with him, he might have one over you.
Exactly. In the thing, like you said earlier, though, is like at a certain point or certain times, whatever, it wasn't fun for you, and it's supposed to be fun. And I'm at a point right now where competing, and especially competing at AGF, is super fun for me.
Yeah, I was starting to have fun with it, and then now I've been on the shelf for 9 weeks now.
Well, I definitely, and that sucks. I mean, that sucks, and I definitely think that I had the opportunity because it was your tournament in Oklahoma City to be able to compete in multiple divisions. But I was still walking around all day. I was still up early. I was still running tournament, all that kind of stuff. And I think that 2 divisions, for me, I don't like 2 divisions. My divisions are separated by 5 hours.
I don't like 2 matches in one division.
And so it was
because I sit there and as the guy running the show, you sit there and you make these brackets, and you're like, yeah, you get 7 minutes or 6 minutes rest because that's how long your division was. And then you see these older guys, and you're like, yeah, you get 6 minutes, you're fine, your turn. And then when it's your turn, so like when I competed against Mike in Arkansas, and he beat me by points, and I'm flat out done. I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. Let me go get my silver medal because I got second. Nope. Up waiting for me is Chris Hubner, and he's all ready to go. He's all rested. He hasn't done squat yet, and I'm all like dying. I'm just trying to get my wind back because I have muscle fatigue. My arms are all spazzed out from over gripping or something. And the ring corner is like, it's been 6 minutes. I'm like, no, it hasn't. What the hell? This thing is. Whose idea was it to give only 6 minutes break? This is stupid.
Me.
And so Chris is like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm like, you sure you don't need a break or something?
Speaking of rest, I mean, you're talking about doing that. Like, me and Cortez are trying to get Kevin to come over and run this match. Kevin's taking a nap.
Yeah.
While we're running around still doing the tournament, I warmed up. Cortez warmed up. And that was the other thing. I kept trying to get Kevin to start this match. And then eventually he's over there warming up. We have to let him wait. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, can we get this over with? I mean, I competed at like 12 and this one's going at 4.
Well, Chris was taking a nap during the tournament when Mike was over there, working acai. I'm working the tournament. Chris is taking a nap. And so.
And then of course, like that was a rare opportunity for me because I don't allow our employees to compete in multiple divisions, and so I never have. That was literally the first time at AGF, I believe, that I had done multiple. No, I did it in San Antonio too.
I did 2 divisions as well once before. I think it was in Springfield. I went with Dennis Knost, a buddy of mine. He had nobody in his divisions. He also works with us.
Yeah, I had one match with Paul Wu, and then I had no-gi matches after. Yeah. So I've done it one time before, but it's not the regular. And then we don't allow, so you guys know, we don't allow employees to do more than one division because they'll be gone half the day instead
they
of
want to
actually
try and
working.
warm up, then they got to cool down, and nobody wants to put clothes back on after you competed.
Like 20 selfies.
Yeah, sit there talking. I mean, you know how it is. It's jiu-jitsu. People want to talk to their opponents, and you're creating relationships and forming friendships and all that good stuff. Talking about how great their jiu-jitsu was and what they did to you, and how just. You know how it is.
I have a blast. I've had a blast lately. I've got a rejuvenated spirit about it. I'm having fun with it, And win or lose is completely out of my mind. I just want to go have fun. Don't look like a fool, like you said. But outside of that, though, it's the eating right, the no partying, the get your sleep right, like do all those kinds of things. Those are things that help too.
I'm finally cleared for light duty, and so I started running. The run. I don't know how far. I don't even measure it because it's probably not something I want to know.
You got about 2.5 minutes, FYI.
Oh, we're wrapping it up.
I got 90 minutes on YouTube right now.
All right. So, anyways, running sucks. Short story. I can't wait to start training jiu-jitsu, but I'm going to have to take it really slow and see how things go because I'm suffering from sciatic issues. So, I'm trying to make sure that I can not push myself too much. So, we'll see if I'll be able to compete again. But hopefully it works out.
Can sciatica go away?
Yeah, it's from my understanding. So I got the pain from my left butt cheek all the way down to the bottom of my foot. And so it's slowly worked its way back up. So now it's just in the butt cheek again. And from my understanding, I believe that once it leaves the butt cheek, it goes back to your back. So now you just have lower back pain. So.
Now, did this start like recently, or did this start like in the red light district in Amsterdam?
No, it started. It started back before I competed in the black belt division, but it kind of worked itself out. And then I got hip tossed and landed on my head in training, and that's when it went snowballed and it became major pain. I went and did a training trip with a group of 6 or 7 guys in Phoenix, and it progressively got worse from the back, and I actually started working from the lower back all the way down to the ankle. So my last day there, I couldn't do hardly anything. I just rolled with my friend Jay Pages. We did a couple rounds, real light and easy, and then I sat out because I could barely walk. I couldn't even sit without it hurting.
Those PR tours are rough.
They are tough. They're the toughest training that I've ever done.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you find out how good your jiu-jitsu really is when you're stripped of any ability to move quickly, think quickly, and you're just a...
Sometimes we hit 3-4 classes a day for 5-6 days in a row.
Yep. And so I actually did really good handling things this last trip. It was one of my best and one of my favorite trips that I had done.
I learned the most when I went to Florida. That was the most I learned.
Because you had so many black belts. I mean, I don't really learn as much that I can retain, but I learned that what my body's capable of doing, and I've really learned that I hate warm-ups. So when you go to a gym that does warm-ups, it sucks because you're worn out because your muscles all are shot, but then you really can't.
Oh yeah.
Then you're done. You're just done.
Well, we got about 20 seconds. We want to say thanks for everybody that's staying loyal to us. Stay safe, stay healthy in this time of lockdown with coronavirus. We're all on a wait period. We'll put out information as soon as possible. Thank you, Chris, for sitting down with me.
Finally.
Any last second?
Nah, I'd like to thank my sponsor, Uncrustables. They've been keeping me in shape this whole time.
Ciao. Talk to you guys soon.